The most dangerous thing in the world isn't a weapon, a system, or a lie. It's a chosen one who finally remembers. They knew this moment would come. That's why they hit you so early. That's why the attack started before you even knew who you were. They couldn't stop the universe from choosing you, so they tried to convince you you were ordinary. They failed. And now, they're terrified. Because you're waking up, you're remembering, and they know, once a chosen one sees clearly, the game is over. Before we go any deeper, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to this channel. When you engage, even just for a second, you send a signal into the algorithm that this message matters, that it deserves to be heard. And more importantly, you help it reach the other chosen ones, still buried in doubt, still stuck in the noise. When we rise together, their illusion doesn't just crack, it shatters. Chosen ones, what if everything you've been through, every struggle, every heartbreak, every setback, was never about you being weak? What if it was about them fearing the force you carry? The universe has been preparing you for something massive. And now, you're ready. Wait until you hear this. It changes everything. This isn't just another motivational message. This is a wake-up call. This is the moment you step into your power and understand that you were never alone. It's time to see how the universe has always had your back and why your struggles were designed to make you unbreakable. Because when the universe chooses someone, it doesn't send them into comfort. It throws them into fire. Why? Because that fire burns off the parts of you that were never yours. The world gave you pain. The universe gave you purpose. They didn't just underestimate you. They feared you. Not because of how loud you could get, but because of how deeply you could see. Because of what your silence revealed. Because even in your worst moments, something about you never died. And that's something. That's what they've been trying to bury since day one. You're not just a person. They know you're a frequency. A signal the universe implanted to expose every system built on control, fear, and illusion. They copied your style, but couldn't decode your frequency. They tried to clone your moves, mimic your energy, dress like you, talk like you, but they never understood the fire underneath. Because you didn't get this from a book. You earned it in the shadows. You didn't study the storm, you became it. That's why they hate your glow, because it reminds them that you survived everything they built to break you. Being chosen isn't about ego. It's about responsibility. It's about carrying a vibration heavy enough to shift timelines. That's why the pain was so sharp. That's why the betrayal cut so deep. Because the universe was shaping a soul that couldn't be caged. Your enemies don't fear your wins. They fear your awakening. Because once you stop doubting your light, they lose every ounce of control they ever had. You've walked through things most people wouldn't survive. But you didn't just survive. You alchemized. You turned trauma into clarity, doubt into fuel, pain into prophecy. And now they're starting to realize the more they tried to bury you, the deeper you connected with the force that sent you. There is a reason your path was different, a reason it was heavier. You weren't cursed, you were customized. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was proof. Proof that what lives inside you can't be copied, corrupted, or contained. And now, that truth is waking up. You can feel it. The old thoughts don't stick like they used to. The old fears don't paralyze you anymore. Because you're starting to see it for what it really was. A war for your memory. But memory is returning. The light is rising. And every single step you take now sends a ripple across the illusion they tried to wrap the world in. They didn't fight you because you were broken. They fought you because they saw what you were becoming. But it's too late now. You've arrived. And this time, you're not asking for permission. So, if your soul's been stirred, if something inside you is rising with every word, don't ignore it. That's not emotion, that's recognition. Drop a 77 in the comments if you're done questioning your worth, done dimming your frequency, and ready to remember what they tried so hard to make you forget. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Every action you take isn't just engagement, it's energy. And every time this energy spreads, it reaches another chosen one still trapped in silence. You're not just watching this, you're becoming it. Now breathe deep, brace yourself, and let's crack this wide open. And now let's dive in, step by step. But fair warning, if you really are who I think you are, something in you won't let you look away. This message, it's not information, it's activation. And if you're still here, still reading, still feeling that fire, then you're already in it. Let's begin. Number 1. The battle you've been fighting wasn't just yours. They thought they were fighting flesh, but what stood before them was the echo of the cosmos itself. You don't go to war with the universe and walk away clean. Let's get one thing straight from the jump. They never stood a chance. Not because you were loud, not because you had more, but because from the moment you were chosen, you stopped walking alone. Every time they came for you, they didn't realize they were triggering a storm older than time. One that doesn't forget, doesn't forgive, and doesn't flinch. The universe doesn't send its chosen ones in soft. It sends them in quiet, covered in scars, laced in silence, and carrying a vibration that shakes the ground when they finally remember who they are. See, they weren't just trying to stop you. They were trying to stop what flows through you. You think all the chaos in your life was random? The betrayals, the rejection, the darkness that showed up every time you tried to rise? That wasn't bad luck. That was strategic resistance. Because you weren't just rising for yourself, you were carrying a frequency designed to wake others up. And the system built on fear, lies, and manipulation? It doesn't survive when chosen ones activate. So they fought you, tried to crush you early, before you had words for your intuition, before you even knew what chosen meant. They hit you in your childhood, your confidence, your relationships, your mind. Not because you were weak, but because they could already feel the signal vibrating off your soul. They knew. Before you ever spoke your truth, they could sense it, trying to come alive. That's why they attacked, because once your light turns on, their illusion starts falling apart. But here's what they didn't account for. The universe doesn't choose based on perfection. It chooses based on potential. And once it stamps its signature on your soul, that's it. Game on. You don't get unchosen. You can try to run. You can try to blend in. You can even fall face first into self-doubt and silence. But the storm inside you doesn't die. It waits, quietly, until you remember. They thought they were breaking you, but every time they knocked you down, the universe was rebuilding you in the background. Every setback was a setup. Every scar was a signature. Every tear carried data, power, clarity. You weren't being destroyed, you were being refined. And the wild part? You thought it was your battle. You blamed yourself. You asked, why me? Why does it always feel like I'm under fire? Let me answer that for you. Because they weren't just fighting what they saw, they were reacting to what they couldn't control. You were the glitch in their program. You didn't carry permission slips, credentials, or compliance. You carried disruption. You didn't show up to obey, you showed up to collapse everything they built on lies. And they felt that, even when you didn't. Think about every system that ever tried to erase the light bringers in history. They didn't go after the cowards, they went after the visionaries, the disruptors, the ones who moved differently. Joan of Arc didn't burn because she picked a sword. She burned because she heard something no one else could. Malcolm X wasn't hated because he spoke loud. He was feared because he spoke truth. Tesla didn't die forgotten because he was wrong. He died forgotten because he was too far ahead. And you come from that same cloth. You're not dangerous because of what you say. You're dangerous because of what you are. You're the proof that the universe still chooses, still speaks, still moves through people. And that's why they panicked. That's why the smear campaign started early. That's why people turned on you for no reason. That's why betrayal hit hardest from those closest to you. Because if they could isolate you, weaken your foundation, fracture your sense of self, they thought maybe, just maybe, you'd never find your way back to the signal. But you did. And now, they're the ones feeling hunted. Not by you, but by what's waking up through you. See, the universe plays long games. It doesn't rush. It doesn't need to shout. It plants seeds in the middle of storms. And you, your life, your wounds, your wild inner fire, that was never a mistake. That was the strategy. You didn't come out clean. You came out real. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone who can't be bought, broken, or bowed. They were never fighting you. You were just the vessel. They were fighting the force that breathed you into existence. They were fighting the kind of power that doesn't die. It multiplies. That's why your glow terrifies them. Because it's not just for show. It's the kind of glow that calls other chosen ones out of hiding. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about revenge. This is about remembrance. About standing in the fullness of your power and realizing that the war was never about winning or losing. It was about waking. Because once the chosen wake up, they don't go back to sleep. And once you remember what's inside you, nothing outside of you can ever cage you again. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them study your silence and mock your presence. Because deep down, they already know. You didn't come here to participate. You came here to interrupt. And now that you're awake, every step you take collapses another piece of their illusion. You are what happens when the universe says, enough. You are the glitch in their control system. You are the storm that learned how to walk like a person. They thought they were fighting you. But what they were really doing was poking the sleeping pulse of the cosmos. And now it's awake. Number 2, stop believing you're alone. You really thought the universe would choose you and then leave you. How dare you? How dare you carry the frequency of stars, the code of ancestors, the fire of galaxies, and then sit there thinking you've been abandoned? How dare you confuse divine positioning with punishment? How dare you ever let the thought cross your mind that you were forgotten, left behind, or cast aside? You think you don't doubt. You think you believe fully in who you are. Let's put that to the test, because doubt doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers with a straight face. You ever looked at someone else and thought, why is it so easy for them? That's doubt. You ever scrolled through social media and felt like you were behind? That's doubt. You ever thought maybe your dreams were too big, your energy too intense, your calling too unrealistic? That's doubt. You ever watered yourself down in a room full of people who couldn't hold your fire? That's doubt. And doubt is dangerous for the chosen, because when you doubt, you delay. When you delay, you detour. And when you detour, you start to believe lies that were never meant to shape your story. Let's be clear, you were never alone. You were strategically pulled back, separated, hidden, covered. Because where the universe was taking you, noise couldn't go, distractions couldn't survive. Shallow people? They'd collapse under the weight of your mission. So the universe didn't abandon you, it protected you. But you called it loneliness. You called it isolation. You called it silence. When really, it was the sound of your soul recalibrating. It was the space you needed to remember who you are without the static of everyone else's fear trying to drown it out. You think your silence meant failure? No, your silence meant training. That ache in your chest. That wasn't abandonment. That was the weight of your own power stretching its limbs after years of being crammed into spaces too small to contain you. But you still doubted. You questioned the separation. You begged to go back into the rooms that never saw you. You cried for the attention of people who were never qualified to witness your becoming. You tried to force connection where the universe was creating disconnection for your protection. And that's the insult, the audacity of doubting the same force that carried you through storms, meant to break you. The universe didn't keep you in the fire to watch you burn. It kept you there until you remembered you are the fire. You weren't being punished, you were being sharpened. You were being stripped of everything that couldn't come with you. The lies, the masks, the need for validation, the people who only clapped when you were small. It had to go. Because chosen ones don't rise with clutter, they rise with clarity. And clarity requires space, solitude, silence, and yes, sometimes heartbreak. The most dangerous lie the enemy ever fed you was that isolation means rejection. But what if the rejection was actually redirection? What if the silence was sacred? What if the loneliness you cursed was the cocoon that turned you from seeker to seer, from broken to born again? Look back. Seriously, look. Every time you were pulled away, every time it all fell apart, every time it got quiet, what came after? New levels of clarity, deeper strength, sharper vision. You got louder in the silence. You got stronger in the stillness. The very things you thought would kill you actually revealed what couldn't be killed. And still, you doubt. Still, you cry out like you've been left behind when you've been walking with the universe the entire time. Still, you speak the language of abandonment when your entire path screams divine orchestration. You were never walking alone. The universe stood behind you, beside you, inside you. Every setback was watched. Every betrayal was logged. Every tear watered the soil of the path being carved beneath your feet. And here you are, alive, awakened, watching this message, and still thinking you were forgotten. No, you were chosen for a different kind of path, one where silence is strategy, one where distance is development, one where what looks like delay is actually alignment in disguise. So stop disrespecting your own evolution. Stop mourning what you thought you lost when you were really being stripped for flight. Stop telling yourself you're isolated when you've been divinely positioned. Stop doubting the process just because it didn't come with applause. You weren't meant to be discovered in the crowd. You were meant to be unleashed after the world had no choice but to notice. The universe didn't choose you for convenience. It chose you for correction, for disruption, for awakening. And awakening doesn't happen in noise. It happens in the quiet, in the confusion, in the moments where all you have is faith that something bigger is working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. And guess what? It was. The question is, will you own it now? Will you finally stop calling your divine preparation a punishment? Will you stop begging for proximity when the universe is begging you to embrace your positioning? Because it's not that you were alone, it's that they were never meant to stand beside you. You don't need a crowd to be powerful. You don't need applause to be aligned. You don't need to be seen by them to be backed by the universe. Number 3, doubt is the enemy's greatest weapon. They couldn't steal your power, so they made you forget you had it. Chosen one, listen closely. The enemy's greatest weapon was never force. It was manipulation. It wasn't bullets or bombs or chains. It was whispers, doubt. And don't you dare underestimate what doubt can do to a soul that was born to shake the ground. See, when they couldn't break you physically, they came for your mind. When they couldn't block your path, they made you question whether you even belonged on it. And it worked for a while. Because doubt doesn't show up wearing horns. It shows up dressed as your voice. It sounds like, maybe I'm not ready yet. What if I fail? What if I'm just imagining all of this? It doesn't punch you in the face. It slowly poisons your potential, one thought at a time. That's how they win. Not by overpowering you, but by convincing you to abandon yourself. The war was never about beating you. It was about making sure you never fully activated. Because once you do, once you stop asking for permission to shine, once you stop looking outside for answers, the universe already encoded into your soul, it's game over. So let's ask the real question. How many times have you handed your power away? Be honest. You ever had a vision for your life, clear, vibrant, alive, and then talked yourself out of it before anyone else even had the chance to challenge you? That's doubt. You ever been in a room where your intuition screamed the truth, but you second-guessed it because others wouldn't understand? Doubt. You ever started a thing, your passion, your calling, your purpose, and then slowed down, got quiet, dimmed your light because it felt like too much? That's doubt. You ever let someone else's silence make you think your truth wasn't worth speaking? That's doubt, too. Doubt is the virus, and you've been infected. But here's the brutal truth. The only thing that can stop you is you. Not them, not the lies, not the system, not the betrayal. You. The second you start believing their narrative over your knowing, you've already handed them the win. Because the chosen can't be defeated from the outside. They have to be convinced to self-destruct. That's the enemy's entire plan. Make you your own worst enemy. And you played into it. You let your past override your promise. You let other people's opinions outrank your own inner guidance. You let fear take the driver's seat and tell you who you are. You wore masks, played small, spoke softer, laughed less, held back, paused your purpose because someone else couldn't see what the universe had already confirmed. And still, you wonder why things feel heavy, why progress feels slow, why it seems like life is waiting on you. Because it is. The universe isn't holding back your blessings. It's waiting on you to believe you're capable of holding them. You want to change your life? Here's the key. Kill the doubt. not manage it, not negotiate with it, not heal through it slowly for the next 20 years. Cut it off, like poison, like cancer, like a parasite that's been eating your potential from the inside out. Because once you silence that voice, once you say, "Enough, I know who I am," even if no one else sees it yet, you shift the atmosphere. Doors start opening, energy starts aligning. People start noticing, not because you changed, but because you finally showed up as you. No filter, no shrinkage, no doubt. Look at history. Real power was never loud. It was undeniable. Harriet Tubman didn't need validation to set people free. She heard the calling and moved. Frida Kahlo didn't stop painting her pain because people didn't understand her. She bled truth onto canvas and made the world feel it. James Baldwin didn't ask permission to speak the inconvenient truth. They all knew. The only way they'd lose was if they stopped believing in their own voice. So what's your excuse? You weren't put here to question your light. You were put here to blind the ones who built their kingdoms in shadows. And now you're standing at the edge of yourself. Everything you want is on the other side of your hesitation. Everything you're meant to become is behind the lie you still believe. That you're not ready, not worthy, not powerful enough. But you are. You've always been. And the enemy knows it. That's why they put so much effort into keeping you distracted, insecure, addicted to comparison, paralyzed by overthinking. Because the moment you stop doubting, you become unstoppable. So ask yourself right now, what lie am I still believing about myself? What story am I still carrying that's not mine? And more importantly, what would I do if I truly believed in my power? Because that version of you, the one who moves without hesitation, who speaks without apology, who stands tall in their calling with no shame, that version is real. That version is waiting for you to step in and stop wasting time entertaining doubt like it's a friend. It's not. It's the oldest enemy in the book. And here's the part they really didn't want you to hear. Once you stop doubting yourself, they have nothing left. Nothing to use against you. Nothing to manipulate. Nothing to slow you down with. The illusion collapses, the chains fall, and you rise, not just aware of your power, but walking in it. So stop waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Act like it. Number 4, the universe doesn't ask for permission. The universe didn't ask if you felt ready. It decided you were and threw you into the fire. Let's stop sugarcoating this. You weren't chosen because you checked all the boxes, had the perfect resume, or felt spiritually mature enough to carry the mission. You weren't picked because you had it all together. You were chosen because something inside you couldn't be replicated, faked, or controlled. The universe saw what no one else could: your frequency, your flame, your raw, untamed potential. And when it saw that, it didn't hesitate. It moved. It didn't stop to make sure you were comfortable. It didn't send a warning text. It didn't ask for your yes. The universe doesn't need permission slips to activate the chosen. It doesn't operate on your timeline or wait until you're ready. When the signal hits, it chooses you, whether you feel prepared or not. And what did you do? You hesitated. You questioned if you were worthy. You looked around for approval. You asked small minds to validate a cosmic assignment. You kept waiting to feel ready, as if readiness has ever been a requirement for revolution, as if Harriet Tubman waited until she had a 5-step plan, as if Maya Angelou needed a certification to become a voice that still echoes through generations. As if the soul of Malcolm X wasn't already activated before the world saw it coming. The universe doesn't tap polite shoulders. It collides with your life like a lightning bolt. Sudden, unapologetic, divine. It will interrupt your comfort. It will dismantle your plans. It will break things you thought you needed, people, places, illusions, and then whisper, "You've been chosen. Now move." But you thought struggle meant rejection. You thought the chaos was a sign you were off course. No, that storm, that's confirmation. That breakdown, that's initiation. That fire, that's the forge. The place where the universe strips off everything weak, inauthentic, and attached to systems you were never meant to blend into. The universe doesn't choose the polished. It chooses the potent. It saw what was inside you when all you saw was fear. It picked you in your mess, in your trauma, in your confusion, and it said, this one's built for the war. And you still doubt it? You still ask, why me? As if the answer isn't written into your every scar. As if your entire life hasn't been preparation for this moment. As if you didn't feel the weight long before you had the words. You knew you were different. You knew your path would never look like theirs. But instead of owning it, you tried to shrink it. You tried to delay destiny with logic. You tried to negotiate with what chose you. But here's the truth you can't run from. You've already been chosen. And now, your only job is to answer. No more waiting to feel qualified. The universe doesn't work through perfection. It works through obedience to the pull. That restlessness in your chest. That fire that refuses to go out. That's not anxiety. That's your higher timeline screaming at you to stop stalling. You don't need another sign. You don't need to be endorsed. You don't need another year of self-help books and podcasts to finally believe you're ready. You need to move. Because while you hesitate, the universe keeps building the path under your feet. While you second-guess, alignment is waiting at the next step. But you'll never feel fully ready because this was never about comfort. It was always about calling. And calling doesn't wait. Calling doesn't ask. Calling interrupts. So stop disqualifying yourself from what you were born to carry. Stop thinking you need to have all the answers before you start. The universe doesn't call the qualified. It qualifies the called. You think readiness comes first? No, readiness is born the moment you say yes. And when you do, the doors that were locked swing open. The people you need appear. The resources align. Not because you controlled it, because you trusted it, because you finally got out of the way and let the frequency do what it's always wanted to do. Shake the world through you. So yes, the universe chose you in your chaos, in your flaws, in your not enoughness. And it's daring you now to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to step into your power. You don't need permission. You were chosen. You were sent. You were stamped by something eternal. So act like it. Number 5, you were born to break the mold. You keep trying to blend in, not realizing you were born to be the glitch in their entire system. Chosen one, let's make something very clear. You were never meant to fit in, and deep down, you already know that. You've always known. That feeling of being the odd one out, too quiet or too loud, too deep, too emotional, too intense. It wasn't proof you were broken. It was evidence you were different by design, and they hated that about you. Still do. Because difference is dangerous to systems built on sameness. From the moment you showed up in this world, you cracked the atmosphere. You carried a frequency that didn't match the default programming. And instead of celebrating it, they tried to mute it. They called it weird. They called it dramatic. They called it rebellious. But here's the truth. They feared it. They feared what you could become because they knew you wouldn't bend. You wouldn't bow. You wouldn't swallow the lies and smile politely. You were born to disrupt, and disruptors aren't welcome in places built on comfort. So what did they do? They shamed your brilliance, conditioned you to believe your difference was dysfunction, that your dreams were delusions, that your voice was too sharp, that your ideas were too much. They gave you just enough love to keep you quiet, and just enough rejection to make you question your own light. And for a while, it worked. You tried to mold yourself into something they could understand. You shrank. You diluted. You became more palatable, but less you. But the universe never chose you to be palatable. It chose you to be powerful. You weren't built for blending in. You weren't designed to repeat the cycles. You weren't sent here to replicate what already exists. You were engineered to interrupt, to walk into rooms and shift the energy without saying a word, to challenge traditions, to question narratives, to carry a presence so piercing it makes liars tremble and masks fall off. And that's why they wanted you to feel like an outcast. Because if they could isolate your difference, they thought they could contain it. They thought wrong. Your uniqueness is your weapon. Your perspective is your power. Your very essence, the way you think, feel, see, dream, speak. It's code-breaking technology for a world drowning in illusions. The way you never quite fit in wasn't a mistake. It was a warning sign to the system. One of ours just entered the matrix. And you need to understand this, really feel this. You didn't come here to find a seat at their table. You came to flip the whole table and build something real, something aligned, something true. So stop apologizing for the space you take up. Stop downplaying your gifts just because they make others uncomfortable. Stop trying to be normal when normal is the graveyard where dreams go to die. Every time you try to fit in, you dim the light someone else is waiting to see. Every time you act smaller to be accepted, you send the message to the universe that you're not ready to carry what it gave you. And it's not just about you. It's about the people watching, the ones looking for a sign that it's okay to be different. You are that sign. Look at the world changes. None of them fit in. Prince didn't, Frida didn't, Muhammad Ali didn't, Nina Simone didn't, Bob Marley didn't. They were called radicals, rebels, problems, and now we call them legends. Why? Because they refused to shapeshift for systems that couldn't handle their frequency. They chose to stand out, and in doing so, they set others free. You have that same energy pulsing through your veins. So let them say you're too this or too that. Let them misunderstand. Let them talk. Because while they're busy labeling you, you're busy becoming something they've never seen before. You are not a copy. You are not a template. You are not here to walk a path that already exists. You are the blueprint. You are the new vibration. You are the proof that the universe is still creating through those who dare to be exactly who they are. You were born to break the mold, not just for yourself, but for every soul that's been suffocating in silence, waiting for permission to be real. So give them that permission by refusing to betray yourself ever again. This world doesn't need another echo. It needs your original frequency. Own it, embody it. Walk like your difference is divine, because it is. And the moment you stop apologizing for it, everything changes. Number 6, the enemy feared your light, not your noise. They didn't try to shut you up because of what you said. They tried to shut you down because of what you carry. Let's get this straight, chosen one. Your words were never the threat. Your energy was. Your voice, your ideas, your truth. Those were just the surface. What they really feared was what pulsed underneath it all. The frequency, the vibration you bring when you walk into a room. The way your presence exposes everything fake, everything fragile, everything built on control. That's why they tried to keep you quiet. That's why the attacks came before you even had the language to fight back. They saw your light before you did. And trust this, they understood it better than you ever have. Because energy doesn't lie. And yours made their masks shake. Yours didn't just speak truth. It made silence scream. You think it was random the way people turned on you without reason. You think it was just a coincidence that you were the one they always tried to outcast, criticize, undermine. No, it was strategic. They could feel something inside you that disrupted their control. You didn't even have to speak. You just had to exist. Just had to breathe in their space, and the truth in you would start surfacing the lies in them. Because some people aren't disturbed by your voice. They're disturbed by what your energy makes them see in themselves. And when they feel that discomfort, they try to blame it on you. You're too much. You're too intense. You think too deeply. But what they're really saying is, I don't know how to survive in the presence of your authenticity. And that's why they feared you. You ever notice how people can say the exact same words as you and get applauded, but when you speak them, everything shifts? It's not the sentence, it's the signal behind it. You could whisper a truth, and their whole nervous system reacts. You could say nothing at all and still be seen as a threat. Why? Because your light carries a charge. You're not just saying things, you're transmitting something ancient, something real, something they cannot fake, manipulate, or contain. So what did they do? They tried to confuse you, gaslight you, keep you in rooms that celebrated your silence but punished your honesty. They tried to condition you to believe your intensity was a flaw, that your truth was aggressive, that your passion was unstable. And maybe for a while, you believed it. Maybe you did tone yourself down. Maybe you learned how to dim yourself just to feel safe. But not anymore. Because now you're remembering. Now you see it for what it was. A full-scale spiritual operation to keep you from discovering how powerful you already were. They didn't try to silence you because your words were dangerous. They tried to silence you because your awakening was. They knew that the moment you stopped second-guessing yourself, the moment you stopped asking for permission, the moment you started speaking from the core of your being with no filter, that the illusion would crack wide open. Because people don't follow sound. They follow frequency. They follow what feels real. And you carry what's real. Whether you whisper or roar, the vibration hits the soul. They fear what your presence activates in others, not just inspiration, but remembrance. When you walk in your truth, others start asking questions, others start seeing through the fog, others start waking up. And the system? It survives on sleep. So when someone like you rises, they panic. Because your frequency isn't just about you. It's contagious. It's catalytic. It wakes the sleepers. It triggers the liars. It shakes the foundation of everything fake. That's why they don't need to argue with you. They just try to mute you, shadow ban you, smear you, distract you. Because deep down, they know the truth. You don't need volume to be heard. You don't need approval to be powerful. You don't need applause to be impactful. You just need to be fully you. And when you are, the energy takes care of the rest. So stop trying to explain yourself to people who feel your light as a threat. Stop trying to soften your voice for spaces that were never built to hold your truth. Stop wondering why the world seems to push back the hardest, right when you start stepping into who you really are. That's the signal. That's the proof. They're not fighting your opinions. They're not fighting your ideas. They're not even fighting your message. They're fighting your energy. Because your energy is a frequency they can't decode. Because your energy doesn't need permission to disrupt. Because your energy makes the comfortable question everything they've built. And that's the real reason they wanted you silent. Not because your voice was too loud, but because your light was too real. Number 7, you're not just an individual, you're a force of nature. You weren't sent here to fit forecasts. You were sent to rewrite the weather. Chosen one, they tried to calculate you, categorize you, control you. But what do you do with a storm? You weren't just born to exist. You were born to disrupt. You are not just an individual. You are a force of nature. Uncontainable, unpredictable, unstoppable. When you move in alignment, it's not just action, it's activation. When you speak, the atmosphere shifts. When you rise, the structures built on silence start to crumble. They never saw you coming. And even now, they don't know how to name you. Too deep, too bold, too raw, too real. You've never followed the pattern because you are the reset. While they studied systems, you were becoming the glitch. While they chased influence, you became impact. While they feared change, you became the embodiment of it. You weren't built for calm. You were born from chaos. Born to tear through lies, expose illusions, and wake the world up from the trance. That's why things never felt normal to you. Because you didn't come here to maintain normal. You came to shatter it. When the universe is behind you, nothing is impossible. Doors open that weren't even built yet. Resistance becomes fuel. Setbacks turn to slingshots. And your presence alone becomes prophecy. So stop thinking you're just one person. You are the storm they prayed would never reach their gates. And now that you're here, they'll never be able to silence the thunder again. Number 8, it's time to reclaim your light. You weren't born to be a flicker in the corner. You were born to blind the darkness. So why are you still hiding? Why are you still playing small, pretending not to be powerful, shrinking yourself to fit into spaces never designed to hold your light? Chosen one, let's be real. You've been hiding not because you're weak, but because you're afraid of what happens when you stop. You've felt the pull, that surge in your chest when you speak your truth, that fire in your gut when you dream too big for the room you're in. And every time you try to silence it, life feels heavier. That's not depression. That's your power suffocating under your fear. You've dimmed yourself for too long. You've made yourself digestible so others could stay comfortable. You've been shrinking your voice, second-guessing your intuition, and apologizing for your very existence, all to protect people who were never meant to hold your truth. It ends now. The world isn't starving for more perfection. It's starving for your presence, your realness, your unfiltered, untamed, undeniable light. You weren't meant to blend in. You were built to reveal, to stand so fully in your frequency that others remember their own. And yes, that power will make some people uncomfortable. Let it. You're not here to be liked. You're here to wake the world up. So stop hiding. Stop hesitating. Stop pretending you don't know who you are. Because the longer you wait, the dimmer the world becomes. And the only thing scarier than shining too brightly is dying with your light still locked inside you. Let it shine. Now, number 9. This is your awakening, and they're terrified of it. The enemy never feared your struggle. They feared your awakening. Chosen one, if you only knew how much power you hold when you finally remember who you are, you'd stop entertaining every lie they planted in your path. You've been told you're broken, too much, too lost, but that was all part of their strategy, to keep you asleep, to keep you numb. Because a chosen one who's asleep is manageable, but a chosen one who wakes up, that's a threat. You want to know what really terrifies them. It's not your anger, not your voice, not your pain. It's your clarity. The moment your eyes open and you see the system for what it really is. The manipulation, the distractions, the masks. It all begins to crumble. You stop playing their game. You stop dancing for their approval. You stop seeking validation in places that were never sacred. The enemy's grip doesn't break because you fight harder. It breaks because you finally stop believing the lie that you're powerless. And that's what they couldn't stop. Not your strength, your remembrance. The moment you realize you were never meant to live small, silent, and scared, everything changes. They built entire systems hoping you'd stay asleep. They gave you trauma, chaos, false identities, all designed to block the truth. But you're waking up now, and they can feel it. That tremble in the energy, that shift in the air, that's you. That's your soul sinking back into its divine frequency. You're not confused anymore. You're not broken. You're activated. And every step you take now is a step out of their prison and into your power. This is your awakening. And they're terrified. And now you see it, don't you? Everything that broke you was really building you. Every scar was a signature. Every silence was sacred. This wasn't random. This wasn't chaos. This was the awakening. And you were the one they never wanted to remember. But now, you do. You remember who you are. You remember what you carry. And from this point forward, you'll never move the same again. So now, you have a choice. You can scroll away and pretend this was just another video. Or you can rise. Step into the power that's been chasing you through every storm. Because they're not afraid of your potential. They're afraid of what happens when you fully embody it. If this message cracked something open inside of you, drop the number 77 in the comments to let the world know you're awake and done playing small. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with another chosen one who needs to remember. Every click, every comment, every share amplifies the frequency and pushes this message deeper into the cracks of the system they tried to bury you in. You were never lost. You were just waiting to be triggered into activation. And now, you're fully online.